political system and candidates being sold as products. And clearly, he's very worried about how easily it will be to manipulate this.
Let us not forget that in TV we have the greatest instrument for mass persuasion in the history of the world.
The film raises some questions about, what kind of power do the people really have? It has a lot of progressive elements, and it's those aspects that I find fascinating. Kazan was born in Istanbul. He's an Anatolian Greek. Comes to the family of immigrants. His father is a rug merchant in New York City. Kazan has no interest in being a merchant. There's constant conflict between Kazan and his father. He ends up going to Williams College, studying drama. His father did not understand that at all. His father wanted him to be a businessman. Then he goes to Yale Drama School and decides he's really not getting what he wants out of drama school. So he joins the group theater. And during that time, the group theater is very involved in politics as well. It's the Depression era, the heyday of the American Communist Party, when it looks like capitalism isn't going to work. So many people that join the party and later recant that membership. Kazan joins the party. He's a member for a couple of years. Then he has a falling out because, according to Kazan, party leaders wanted him to sort of infiltrate the group theater and bring it in a certain political direction. He resented that, fought back against it, and left the party. From there, he goes on to a distinguished career on Broadway, then into making motion pictures. 1947, with Gentleman's Agreement, he wins the Academy Award for Best Director. So by the early 1950s, very established. Then you've got the House Committee on Un-American Activities looking into allegations that Hollywood is under the influence of communists. The Hollywood 10 refused to cooperate with Congress and actually were found guilty of contempt of Congress and spent a year in prison before trying to return to Hollywood, and then they were unable to be employed. They were blacklisted. Kazan, during that time, is called before the committee once. He appears. He refuses to name names. He's willing to talk about anything that happened to himself and describes his involvement with the Communist Party. And everything seems to be fine. He's dismissed, and he assumes that he won't have to deal with it again. He's brought back before the committee and essentially is told that unless he shows full cooperation and names those who worked with him that might have been members of the Communist Party, they really can't clear him to continue to make films. He would have been allowed to continue making productions on Broadway, which are not covered really by the blacklist, as was Hollywood. But what he does is, on that second appearance, he agrees to name names, including naming one of his best friends, playwright Clifford Odets. After his testimony, Kazan takes out an ad in the New York Times saying that I'm very glad what I did. I have exposed a criminal conspiracy in the United States, and I'm proud of this. And he never really apologized. He is working with Bud Schulberg, a writer who was a member of the Communist Party, and Schulberg also leaves the Communist Party, cooperates with HUAC, and in many ways he and Kazan are on the same page, form a very strong collaboration with On the Waterfront, and a very strong collaboration with A Face in the Crowd. The film itself is based from a short story called The Arkansas Traveler, which is in a larger collection of Schulberg's called Faces in the Crowd. There's a lot of speculation as to who this sort of Lonesome Rhodes demagogic character is based upon. And one person that Schulberg mentions is Will Rogers. Supposedly Schulberg was doing some heavy drinking with Will Rogers Jr., and Will Rogers Jr. talks about his father and says, really, my father was a bit of a fake, claiming to be a man of the people, common touch, but really behind their backs kind of made fun of them. He said, really the only people, I didn't see any common people coming to my home, no Okies, Rogers being from Oklahoma. They were all wealthy people from Hollywood, business types. And so in some ways, sort of the hypocrisy that Will Rogers Jr. talked about with his father seemed to be some of the genesis for Schulberg's story. There are several other people you might think about in terms of maybe being models for the character. One would be television star Arthur Godfrey. In the 40s, 50s, really a major star, first of radio and then into television. And Godfrey, again, kind of came off as, a very common folk. Countrified, had a variety show, was very successful on television. Also, much like the Lonesome Rhodes character, Godfrey many times got into it with his sponsors. He wouldn't always follow the script for what a sponsor wanted and go off on his own tangent and sometimes antagonize the sponsors. And Godfrey also gets into some trouble when on the air he could be very cruel to subordinates. And there was a Julius Rosa, was a very popular singer that appeared on the show. And one night, Godfrey just lit into him on the air.
Thanks ever so much, Julie. That was Julie's swan song with us. He goes now out on his own, as his own star, soon to be seen in his own programs. And I know you wish him Godspeed, same as I do.
And that really caused a lot of problems for Godfrey. And in some ways reminds one of kind of what happens at the end of Facing the Crowd when the public begins to turn on Lonesome Rhodes. And of course, there are other figures. Kazan mentioned, for example, Huey Long as a demagogic Southern politician. And Long is a fascinating character. Long was a man who did a lot for the people of Louisiana. He went after the power of the oil companies in Louisiana. He built public roads, free textbooks for children, built schools, built hospitals, yet didn't always believe in democracy. As Huey Long said, every man a king, but only one wears the crown. Baby Doll in 1956, then A Face in the Crowd in 57, and then Wild River in 1960. And he always talked about how he liked being in the South, liked being with the common people. They're warm, he loves them, but there's kind of a condescending aspect to how Kazan treats them. There's a little bit of, you almost think about contemporary politics. Kazan seems to be one of those cultural elites that says he loves the people, but still kind of looks down on them. It's very interesting in terms of the amount of research that goes into this film. Not only do you have the trips that Schulberg and Kazan make to Arkansas, but they also go to New York City, spend a lot of time Madison Avenue, looking at the advertising industry. They also, in terms of their research, go to Washington, D.C., talk to politicians, and one of the people that they interview that is delighted to see them, evidently gave him a fair amount of time, was Lyndon Johnson. And they do this research, and they do an interesting job of how politics and advertising come together. Because what they seem to see when they're looking at Madison Avenue is the idea that, well, wait just a minute, why can't a political candidate be sold the same way that a bottle of ketchup or underarm deodorant is sold? Deal is, when he finally decides that he's had enough of Betty Lou, that she's cheating on him, and he's going to send her back to Arkansas, there's also sort of an autobiographical aspect to A Face in the Crowd for Kazan. Because there's a way in which Kazan and Lonesome Rhodes are similar in that they're outsiders and in the relationship with women. Lonesome is an outsider, very poor roots, he's not educated. You see with Kazan that he's the immigrant outsider, he's desperately seeking acceptance in American society, and he marries Molly Day Thatcher from a very predominant, wealthy, aristocratic Connecticut family. During the filming of A Face in the Crowd, Kazan begins his affair with Barbara Loden, who will eventually become his second wife, with whom he has a child while he's still married to Molly. He sees her as totally different. She's sexuality, she's wild, she's uninhibited, and he loves all these things about her, okay? And you see in the crowd a very positive review that talks about the progressive principles in the film and how the film really challenges American democracy and how difficult it is to wrest power from corporations, capitalist figures whose power is often hidden. On the other hand, Kazan has become sort of a darling of the right for the way he has denounced communists and always refused to apologize for naming names. Yet Counterattack, one of the real right-wing publications that really attempted to enforce the blacklist, they give a review of this film and say it's horrible. This is left-wing propaganda being produced by Schulberg and Kazan, who still seem to be in thrall of the Communist Party. So it's very interesting how you can view this film politically. I think this film very much seems to foresee the future in terms of politics. Obviously, Ronald Reagan comes to mind. Here you've got an actor who goes into politics, but also has important business connections. And you can certainly also see it in Bill Clinton, a Southerner, who always seems to be able to talk his way out of something. And you also see it very much in Donald Trump. And Trump is very much, a person out of television. He seems to view the whole presidency as a television show. In Trump, you see the continuation of demagoguery. You see very much the use of television. And very interesting here, how Trump constantly goes after the news. Well, actually, he's been very good for them in many ways.